Dad left a voicemail. You're no longer part of this family. Don't show your face at Thanksgiving. I texted back one word. Noted. That same night I logged into the business account and removed myself. 2 days later they called me 25 times in a row and my dad was crying on a voicemail. You're not part of this family anymore. Don't show up for Thanksgiving. That was the voicemail. No greeting. No pause. Just my dad's voice, flat and final, like he was canceling a dentist appointment instead of cutting off his own daughter. I was still at the office when I heard it. Alone, lights half off, the place quiet except for the hum of the fridge units downstairs. I'd stayed late again because payroll was due and no one else knew how to run it. Or bothered to learn. I replayed the voicemail twice, then a third time like maybe the words would rearrange themselves into something that made sense. They didn't. A minute later my phone buzzed again. A text from my mom. We're going to respect Lindsay's wishes. Please don't cause problems. That's when my stomach dropped. Lindsay. Of course it was Lindsay. My sister had always been good at telling stories that made her look like the victim and me like the villain. I didn't even know what she'd said this time, but I knew how it ended. It always ended with them taking her side and me being expected to swallow it quietly. I called her. Straight to voicemail. Texted her. Nothing. I sat there thinking about everything I'd done for them over the past few years. Not the little stuff. The big stuff they liked to forget. Covering the mortgage when Dad's business account dipped too low. Paying Mom's credit cards when she said it was just temporary. Sending Lindsay money every month so she could keep her apartment while she figured herself out. No thank yous. No acknowledgement. Just expectation. And now I wasn't welcome at Thanksgiving. I didn't argue. I didn't ask what I'd supposedly done. I didn't try to defend myself. I was too tired for that. I sent my dad one word back. Noted. Then I closed my office door, opened my laptop and logged into the business account. They'd put my name on everything when it was convenient. When the business was failing and my credit was better than theirs. When banks wanted guarantees and someone responsible on paper. I handled the finances, the contracts, the vendors, the taxes. They called it helping out, but it was ownership without the respect. So I started undoing it. I removed myself as an authorized user. Took my cards off the accounts. Transferred admin access and stepped away from payroll. Every click felt calm. No anger. Just finality. If I wasn't family anymore, I wasn't their safety net either. I finished just before midnight. Thanksgiving came and went. No messages. No apology. No explanation. I spent the day alone, ate whatever was in my freezer and felt something close to relief. For once, no one needed anything from me. Then 2 days later my phone exploded. I woke up to missed calls stacked on top of each other. 25 of them. Voicemails from numbers I barely recognized. My mom. My sister. Even distant relatives. The last voicemail was from my dad. There'd been a fire. The house was gone. Everything burned. They'd barely made it out. Insurance wasn't enough. They didn't know where to go. And suddenly, the daughter who wasn't part of the family anymore was very important again. I set the phone down and didn't call back. I didn't answer any of the calls. Not the first wave, not the second. I listened to the voicemails once, all of them in a row. Some were frantic, others apologetic. One of them, my sister's, was actually angry like this whole thing was somehow my fault. But the last one from my dad stayed with me. He was crying. I hadn't heard him cry since Grandma died. He said they'd lost everything. The fire started in the garage late at night. By the time anyone noticed, the upstairs was already full of smoke. They got out with just their phones and whatever they were wearing. No wallets. No keys. Not even shoes. The fire department said the wiring in the garage was a problem waiting to happen. I thought back to the dozens of times I'd told them to upgrade it, the email I sent about the inspection they ignored, the conversation where Dad said, "We'll get to it when we have more cash flow." I guess they never did. They needed help. He didn't say it directly, but it was obvious. The insurance wasn't paying fast enough, the business account was in the red and none of their cards were going through. They were calling because they assumed I'd step in. I always had before. But this time I didn't. Instead, I forwarded the voicemails to a new folder and shut off my phone. They didn't know yet that I'd already backed away from everything. The money they were expecting? It wasn't coming. The payments I usually made without them noticing, utility bills, emergency costs, little gaps in the payroll. That safety net was gone. Quietly. Finally. By Saturday evening the text started. We're staying with Aunt Kelsey. It's cramped. Diana, can you please call us back? This isn't the time to hold a grudge. You're punishing the whole family. The last one made me laugh. Not because it was funny but because of how predictable it was. That was always the angle. I was selfish. Dramatic. Told. Meanwhile they were the ones who cut me off first. They were the ones who told me I wasn't part of the family. But they never expected the door to stay closed. By Sunday I got a message from Aunt Kelsey. She was trying to play peacekeeper like she always did. She said the house was completely unlivable and Mom and Dad were sleeping on an air mattress in her sewing room. Lindsay was on the floor next to the washer. She said everyone was under a lot of stress, and asked if I could look past whatever this is and come help. Whatever this is. As if my entire life hadn't been wrapped around fixing problems they created. As if I wasn't the one who made sure there was still a store for Dad to show up to. As if I hadn't practically raised Lindsay the entire year Mom was recovering from surgery. I didn't reply. That night I got one last voicemail from Lindsay. She said she knew I was angry but this wasn't the time to be spiteful. She said Dad was humiliated. That Mom was barely sleeping. That she was willing to talk things out, if that's what I needed. But I could hear it in her voice. This wasn't about healing anything. It was about survival. And once again they were looking to me to save them. Only this time I wasn't going to. By Monday the calls slowed down but the silence was heavier. They'd figured it out by then. Realized I wasn't going to play the role they were used to. I didn't block anyone. I didn't send some big dramatic message. I just didn't respond. The thing is, when you grow up in a family like mine, you get trained to forget your own limits. You learn to step in before anyone has to ask to fix things before they collapse. And you're told over and over that it's just what family does. But the second you stop, suddenly you're ungrateful, selfish, disrespectful. So now I was all three. I knew what came next. The quiet blame campaign. Calls to other relatives. Half-truths. Twisting the story until it sounded like I'd turned my back on them in their hour of need. Sure enough, by Tuesday I started getting texts from extended family. A cousin I hadn't seen in 4 years messaged me. I heard what happened. Are you okay? Innocent enough, but I could tell from the wording that she didn't mean the fire. She meant me not showing up with a check. Then came the guilt grenades. We're just trying to survive, Diana. I don't know how you sleep at night knowing your parents are living like this. If Grandma were alive, she'd be ashamed of you. That last one came from Lindsay. And it stung. Not because I believed it, but because it was exactly the kind of low blow she knew how to deliver. Sharp and fast, aimed straight at the part of me that still cared even when I didn't want to. They ended up staying in Aunt Kelsey's guest room. One room. All three of them. My dad apparently broke down after trying to apply for an emergency loan and finding out their credit was still trashed from 3 years ago. My mom was calling around asking about part-time work, and Lindsay, she was still treating it like a temporary inconvenience, talking about how she might use this downtime to finally start that podcast she always mentioned and never followed through on. They wanted a reset. They wanted a solution. They wanted me. And for the first time I didn't want them back. Not like this. Because even with their world burned to the ground, they hadn't said sorry. Not once. No one acknowledged the voicemail that started it all. No one asked what Lindsay said or if it was true. No one took accountability. They just assumed I'd do what I always did. Step up, write a check, pretend the past didn't matter. I didn't. Instead, I took a few days off work. Booked a little Airbnb in the mountains and left my phone in airplane mode. First time I'd done that in years. I spent the weekend hiking, reading, thinking. Trying to figure out if I was heartless, or finally free. When I came back to cell service, there were no new messages. Just one group text from a number I didn't recognize. Since Diana won't help, they're staying with us. One room. Please keep your distance. I didn't even know who sent it. Probably a cousin. Or maybe one of Lindsay's friends trying to stir the pot. Either way, the message was clear. They'd stopped asking. Now they were blaming. After that group text, everything shifted. I didn't reply, of course. What was I supposed to say? Sorry, I'm not funding your recovery after you disowned me? It was laughable. But still, reading that message made something settle in my chest. Heavy. Final. They'd found somewhere else to land, barely. A single spare room, probably in that cramped rental my cousin Amanda shared with her boyfriend. 3 adults stuffed into one space with an air mattress and borrowed blankets. And from the way the message was worded, "Please keep your distance," it was clear they were done pretending. I was the villain now. Not Lindsay for lying. Not my parents for turning on me without a word. Me. For staying quiet. For not rescuing them. For refusing to bleed anymore. A few relatives started unfollowing me on social media. Others left passive-aggressive comments on old posts, mostly ones about family or the business. One aunt posted something vague about people who turn their backs when it matters most, and everyone knew who it was about. They didn't tag me. They didn't have to. And through all of it, no one, not one of them, asked me what happened. I thought maybe, just maybe, someone would. Maybe someone would realize there had to be more to the story than me just disappearing. But no. It was easier to believe I'd snapped. That I was cruel. Cold. Greedy. Easier to believe Lindsay's version, whatever it was. And the truth? The truth was boring. It didn't fit the story they wanted. I wasn't cold. I was tired. Tired of paying the price for being the one who always had it together. Tired of being used and resented at the same time. Tired of being useful but never loved. I heard through someone else, probably one of the employees at the store who still talked to me quietly, that the business was barely scraping by. With me gone, no one knew how to handle the systems. They'd missed a vendor payment and had to shut down the online shop for 2 weeks because they couldn't reset the password. My dad tried to call the bank about the loan, but since I was the one who'd signed for it, they wouldn't talk to him. That's when he left the last voicemail I ever got from him. No threats. No guilt. Just a sentence I'd waited years to hear. "I didn't realize how much you were doing." That was it. Just that. No apology. No follow-up. No, "I'm sorry for what we said." Just a tired voice admitting for the first time what I already knew. I listened to it twice, then deleted it. It wasn't enough. Not anymore. Because what he didn't say, what none of them said, was that I mattered outside of what I did for them. That even if I hadn't been the one keeping everything afloat, I still deserved respect. Kindness. Loyalty. But I wasn't going to get that from them. Not now. Not ever. And slowly I started to let that reality sink in. The door they slammed shut? I wasn't opening it again. Weeks passed. Winter came in fast that year, early snow and all. The holidays blurred together, and for the first time in my life, I didn't spend them in someone else's chaos. No cooking for 20, no pretending to laugh at conversations that always circled back to who was doing better, who was falling apart, and who was being too sensitive. I thought I'd miss them. That I'd feel a pull around Christmas. I didn't. What I did feel was space. Like I finally had room to think my own thoughts without the weight of someone else's expectations sitting on my chest. I started going out more, saying yes to things I used to be too drained for. Dinner with friends, a short trip out of state, even a pottery class that I signed up for on a whim. For the first time in years, my schedule wasn't built around someone else's disaster. But the silence didn't last. Sometime in mid-January, Lindsay showed up at my apartment. I wasn't expecting it. I opened the door thinking it was a delivery. And there she was, standing in the hallway, wrapped in a coat that wasn't hers and boots I recognized from a cousin 2 towns over. She looked exhausted. Not her usual polished self. I didn't invite her in. I just stood there waiting. She said she didn't want to fight. Said she wasn't there to guilt me. She just wanted to clear the air. I didn't say anything. I let her talk. She told me things I already knew, things she had never admitted out loud. That she resented me for always being the one everyone relied on. That she felt invisible next to me. That when I stopped paying her rent, she panicked. Told our parents I'd threatened to cut them off completely. Lied to them. Lied to herself. She said she didn't expect it to go the way it did. That she thought they'd get mad at me, I'd come crawling back and things would return to normal. But you didn't come back, she said. You disappeared. I told her I didn't disappear. I was erased. That part caught her off guard. Then I asked her one thing. If the fire hadn't happened, if they didn't need me, would she be here right now? She didn't answer. Didn't need to. I told her I wasn't angry anymore. I just didn't have anything left for people who only saw me when they needed something. She asked if I could ever forgive her. I said maybe. But I wouldn't forget. She nodded, turned around and left. I haven't seen her since. A few days later, I heard through a mutual connection that my parents were still at my cousin's place. Still sharing one small room. The store was on the verge of shutting down. They were trying to sell what inventory they had left but couldn't get a good price. A distant uncle stepped in with a loan to keep the lights on a little longer. But the writing was on the wall. The legacy my dad always talked about? It was ending. And for once I wasn't the one cleaning it up. By February was over. The store closed quietly on a Tuesday morning. No announcement. No going out of business sale. Just a sign on the door that said, "Closed until further notice," which in our town is code for we gave up. I didn't go see it. I thought about it once, driving past maybe just to confirm it was real, but I stopped myself. I didn't need proof. I already knew. That place was my second home for years and they never even said goodbye. A week later, I heard through the grapevine that my parents and Lindsay had officially moved in with a different set of relatives. An uncle and aunt in a small house with barely enough space for themselves, let alone 3 extra people. One room again. A couch. A mattress on the floor. A borrowed space in a life that wasn't theirs. It hit me then they were never going to bounce back. Not all the way. They burned the bridge, and when the house went up in flames, so did every illusion they had about control, about legacy, about family. What they thought would last forever ended in silence. And for once there was no backup plan. No Diana to quietly fix it in the background. People still talk about it. Small towns don't forget easily. Some say it was a shame what happened to the store. Others say it's sad how the family fell apart. And every now and then someone will slip into conversation. "I heard Diana's doing well though," like it's a surprise. Like I'm not supposed to be. I never corrected the rumors. I didn't tell my side. I didn't need to. They made it clear I wasn't part of the family. And now they were living exactly as they had treated me, on the outside relying on the kindness of people they once ignored. They say karma doesn't come with fireworks. Doesn't need to. Sometimes it just looks like 3 people, sleeping on the floor of a house that isn't theirs, wondering how the one they pushed away ended up being the one they needed most. I didn't take revenge. I just walked away. And I never went back.